Rev up your engines!
Well, if you think you're not doing too good financially, be happy you're not Ford Motor Company. They are now losing $25 million a day making vehicles. And you might wonder, how can they keep going? Well, it's a huge corporation. They have lots of resources. And the reason they're losing money is because one is the stupid electric vehicles. Ford electric vehicles projected to lose $5.5 billion this year. But number two is poor Ford quality control. They got so many recalls and so many things they have to fix for free. They are hemorrhaging money like no tomorrow when it comes to that. It reminds me when Mercedes-Benz bought Chrysler and called it Daimler Chrysler. Chrysler told Mercedes before they bought him, we're the highest profit car manufacturer in the world per unit sold. But Chrysler neglected to tell Mercedes-Benz one figure, and that was all the recalls and the stuff they had to fix for free. And when they added that in, they were actually losing money. And Mercedes-Benz bought it, called it Daimler Chrysler, found out this is a money pit machine, right? Chrysler went bankrupt in the United States. Those taxpayers had bailed them out years ago and stuff. It wasn't a well-run company. So the Mercedes-Benz people were fooled by the Chrysler guys that didn't tell them, oh, gee, we spent an awful lot of money fixing the cars because they aren't built that well. But then eventually someone suckered Fiat into buying it, and then you got a giant mess. Well, Ford Motor Company stands alone by itself. So they've pretty much created their own mess. And my advice to Ford Motor Company stock owners and people on the board would be, you need to get rid of that Farley guy and get somebody in who gets some idea what he's doing. Because most corporations are dead from the neck up. Well, Ford Motor Company really is. Now, Jeep is facing a sales bust. Why? Why might you say? Well, a lot of it has to do with Stellantis taking over. It was bad enough when Mercedes got rid of it, where the quality of the Jeeps was actually going up when it was Daimler Chrysler. But then Fiat took over, the quality started going down. Stellantis took over, it went down the toilet. So they got a problem with horrible quality, horrible customer service by dealers. The dealers are being abused by even the manufacturers, the corporation itself, Stellantis. They told them, oh yeah, you got 10 years for all your brands. And now they're saying, nope, well, 3 years later, we're going to get rid of the ones that don't make money. Now, as I said, a lot has to do with bad quality control, bad dealership relationships with people. But most dealerships don't have the greatest relationship either. They're just out to make money. They're private companies that buy the vehicles from the manufacturers and then sell them. Jeep was always the American Jeep. Well, Jeeps that are basically rebadged Fiats, the Jeep Renegade. You've got Jeep Gladiators that are extremely overpriced. You got Jeep Grand Wagoneers that are $119,000 up. They're going to price themselves out of a lot of people's ballpark. A name only goes so far. Look at Harley Davidson's. Their sales are kind of crap. They kept banking on this Harley Davidson name from technology that's 100 years old. Same thing's happening with Jeep. It's not a surprise to me that their sales are starting to tank. And as far as I'm concerned, it's only the beginning. It's going to get worse as time goes on. They're still banking on the name Jeep. And if you go back into history, originally Jeep, Willie's Jeep, then AMC was making them. Chrysler bought AMC, and they got rid of everything except for the Jeep. They bought it just for the Jeep name, and they started making money off of that. And of course, the quality started to go down even right there. And then eventually, with Stellantis, the quality's just dropped off the boards. And they can talk all they want. They can have all the form versus function. But ultimately, the Jeeps have to be a functional vehicle. If they don't function right, they cost too much money, they break down, they have all kinds of recalls. And the fancier ones that had nice diesel engines, now they've got crappy Italian diesel engines that blow up all the time. Hey, they've created their own maelstrom. You ever wonder why one gas station has a different price than the other? I've seen them where there were 40 cents difference across the street from each other, right? Realize that they claim 2/3 of the price is the raw material, the oil that they turn into gasoline. So they got a little bit to play with. Now, in terms of state to state, well, there's always a price differential there because states tax it different than other states. I was in Pennsylvania and it was relatively expensive. As soon as I got to Ohio, it was 40 cents a gallon cheaper. So obviously they have a lot more tax in Pennsylvania than they do in Ohio. But if you want to talk about local, how come one guy across the street from the other and they're in the same state have such a differential in price? Well, what it has to do is the actual cost of gasoline on the spot market. It's traded just like stocks. Let's say the guy's gas that he's got across the street that's $3.40. Maybe the price of gas was much higher 2 weeks ago. He's got to pass it on. Maybe the guy across the street just filled this up and the price went down. So there could be a 40% differential because of when he bought it. Now, don't be fooled by price. Don't think, well, I'll buy the $3.40 one, not the $3 one, because the $3.40 is better. No, almost all gasoline that you buy in an area is done at the same refineries in that area. Normally, there's only one refinery in an area, and they sell gas to all the corporations, and all they do is put their own additives in a different color dye to make it a different color. It's the same gasoline most times. Most of the times it is. But that's why you can have such a differential. Now, another thing is the area that you're at. Let's face the facts. If you're in a rich area, guess what? They'll jack the price up. I remember in Houston, River Oaks, where the rich people live, right, gas might have been $3.50 a gallon. But if you drove, and I'm not making this up, 2 miles away to the Fourth Ward, it's a very poor area, sometimes it'd be 40 cents a gallon cheaper. They take advantage of the money that people have. Now, I was reading this article this guy wrote, and he says, well, in the underserved communities, that the price of gas can be lower because of its location. Well, to some extent, that may or may not be true. But there's also what you put into is how much are you actually selling? They want to sell large volumes. Right? If you're in an entirely poor area, like let's take the state of New Mexico. One time I went from Houston to New Mexico, and the gas was $3.40 in Houston, and it was like $2.50 in many parts of New Mexico. Well, that's because they don't have much money in New Mexico. It's a very poor state. The state budget of New Mexico is smaller than the Houston city budget, so they don't have much money. People won't buy gas if they don't have money to buy it. So even though these corporations whine about, we're not making any money, they're still selling it there. They have to sell it at a lower price because if they don't, they won't sell hardly any gas at all. And the name of the game is selling volume. My old man, most of his life ran gas stations, so I know a little bit about gas stations, right? Now, that's the reason you're going to see all these wild price fluctuations. It's relatively complex, but you can break it down in your local area the way I did. You might want to go to the poorer part of town to buy your gasoline. When I went to Death Valley, the gas in Death Valley was almost $7 a gallon. But a 40-minute drive into the state of Nevada, it was $3.30 a gallon. So you might plan that in your trips if you see the price of gas as you're driving around. Landro says, I have PO 420 code in my car for inefficient catalytic converter. I got a 2011 Chevy Malibu, 162,000 miles. Now, could I replace my downstream oxygen sensor and use a bottle of Cataclean to fix the issue? I've checked the downstream and it sits at 0.84 volts. Okay, I doubt that it's the sensor itself. The sensor is reporting voltage. What's happening is it's the same voltage because the catalytic converter is not working correctly. That's the most common thing. Now, you got 162,000 miles. It's a Chevy Malibu. Does it burn oil? Take out one of the spark plugs. If it's covered with burnt carbon, it's burning oil. That burnt oil will clog up the catalytic converter. No cleaner is going to fix that. If that's the case, you're going to need a new catalytic converter. No way out of that. You can try cleaner first if you want. You never know. You might get lucky, right? But if it's an oil burner, that hard carbon is not going to clean off. Honeycomb pieces would have hard carbon on them. You'll never get it off with cleaner. Well, you think it's bad getting your car repaired? How'd you like to have a jet? Because jet engines need constant repairs, and the manufacturers are raking cash in, repairing them. It's kind of like, use a computer printer as an example. Now, they practically give computer printers away for $29, $39, but they sell the cartridges for a small fortune, and they have computer chips, so you can only use their cartridges to print your stuff. So they don't give a crap about the printer. They're practically giving them away. They're making you buy this ink at a small fortune. I mean, one of those little ink cartridges, some of them are like $59.95 or more, right? And you get like an ounce or something, or even less of ink. Now, it's hilarious because when I was younger in Houston, I had a friend who worked at the Houston Chronicle, and they bought ink, of course, to print by the gallon. And they would buy hundreds of gallons at a time, right? Hey, we're not paying $59 an ounce or less, right? It's just a total ripoff. And the same thing turns out to be the case with the people that make jet engines for airliners. They make so much money maintaining those things, it's to their advantage to make them so they need more maintenance. GE, they reported a huge demand for spare parts. The stock closed at a 16-year high. Hey, they're all making money because they got to fix them all the time. Well, all they got to say is they better fix them correctly. I don't want them crashing down. I do have to say, in the United States, it's not that often that planes go down. So they seem to do a pretty good job maintaining these engines. But they make a small fortune You think it's something to, have your engine worked on your car, and it costs you, $1,200, $1,500. Imagine paying for jet engines, the money that costs, and they are making a fortune on this stuff. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.